Chapter 7. A Door to the Murder Case. Anand, the forensic lab officer, watched Dr. Benekit insert a large needle in a heart and suck out crimson blood into a vacutainer tube. There's blood losses in many organs, but no signs of physical injuries, only injection-induced wounds at the crook of his arms and his groin from blood drawing. Also, there's a bruise on his chest and broken ribs caused by CPR. Those lumps in the lung looked scary, Doc. Anand protruded his lips at the cancerous tumor which had spread all over the lung, making the deceased's lung tissue turn black and bumpy. In Anand's hands was a compact camera used during an autopsy. Can't this be the cause of death? I also thought that this could be a natural death, but the blood result from the emergency room couldn't give a clear explanation. Sodium was quite low, potassium wasn't high. No bloodstream infection. He had an acidosis, which might occur when his heart stopped beating. I tried an arterial blood gas test, but it's still hard to tell because of the cardiac arrest happened since he's home. Benekit took off his gloves. This man received morphine and lorazepam from the medical ward when he left the hospital. We need to check his serum blood levels for further determination. From what we've asked the police, the family member of the patient confirmed that no medicines were missing or abnormally decreased. Anyway, we still have to be thorough because there's a report to the police that someone was breaking into the deceased house at the time. So this isn't a normal case, Dr. Bunn. Anand put the deceased name tag on the evidence Dr. Benekit retrieved from the body. After closing him up, I'll send the evidence to the University Hospital Forensic Lab. You should take some rest and drink some coffee, Dr. Bunn. Please do me a favor, Anand. Benekit brought up the chart to record what he had found for a moment before placing it down on his desk, and then left the autopsy room. He stretched his body to get rid of the soreness from a long period of work. Anand carried a foam box containing the vacutainer tubes for blood, urine, and pieces of evidence that Dr. Bunn retrieved from the body to the hospital garage. He made an appointment with Ad, a hospital driver, to deliver this box to the toxicology laboratory at the University Hospital, which would take around 40 minutes from here, with other patients' lab results that also needed to be sent there. Where's that? Anand made a disapproving noise when he walked into the garage and found no one there. Anand took a peek at a small office by the garage, but it was empty. Anand placed the box on someone's desk in the room with irritation and called Ad for a second time. Hey, please wait. I was asked to pick up the director at the Provincial Public Health just now. I'll be there in 10 minutes. As soon as Ad picked up the call, he anxiously explained the reason for his absence. All right. It's okay. I'll wait around here. Are you in a hurry? You can leave the box in the vehicle office so that you can go do something else. No way! If the evidence disappears, I'll be in big trouble. Anand walked out of the garage area to avoid a dead zone with low connectivity. I've no other works that need my immediate attention. Plus, Dr. Bunn is resting. I'll wait here. Okay, 10 minutes. Anand hung up the phone and walked back to the vehicle department's office. He thought he would see an empty room, but he then saw a silhouette of a human's head moving through the windows. He knitted his eyebrows and rushed to the office door to determine what it was because he was quite sure that there was no one in there earlier. Then Anand collided with someone who rushed out of that room. He raised his head to look at the tall man before him. He was a young man with a fair, handsome face. He wore a short lab coat with black pants. At his chest, a light green thread was embroidered in Chanchai Menarat, Farm D. Anand had no idea who was more shocked, but surely the pharmacist's eyes were so big. Pharmacist Booth? Anand shouted. Anand, he said, sending Anand a dry smile.
What are you doing here? I want Ad to deliver the forensic lab evidence.
Anand watched the young man with a doubtful gaze.
What are you doing here? I dropped something in the van when I went to visit a patient with Dr. Gunn yesterday.
Booz smiled broadly and scratched his head bashfully.
But no one was here. I guess I have to come back tomorrow. Who was the driver you went with that day? If it's Ad, you could wait 10 minutes. He's coming.
Anand looked at his watch.
No, not Ad. It's okay. I'll come back later.
Booz sneaked past the door.
Excuse me. See you.
Anand turned his head to look at the young man in short lab coat, who quickly walked away till he disappeared from his eyesight. Anand went back into the room, eyeing the phone box on the desk. Having a strange feeling, he rushed to the desk and opened the box. Bags containing pieces of evidence were still there, sealed tightly with tape, and on top of them was the tags with Dr. Beneket's signature. It was impossible to take away the pieces of evidence inside without leaving a trace. Although he felt a little uneasy, Anand was quite sure that no one had taken anything from the box. 10 minutes later, the driver of the hospital ran quickly to meet Anand in the room. He said the car was ready for delivery. Anand handed the phone box to Ad, repeated the drop-off location, and went back to the forensic department. His mission in that afternoon was complete. The appointment order had arrived. Right now, Police Captain Vassan was officially elevated to Police Major Vassan, a detective inspector of this provincial police station. He was standing before the picture of his mother in her charming youth. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She was smart, strong, and was able to raise her 3 sons so well, despite all the trials and tribulations. Although their family was poor, Vassan's stomach had never been empty. He grew up to be a police officer with dignity because of the woman in the picture.
Let me be her representative.
Thongom elaborately pinned an insignia, tied theatrical crown above a star, of the new title on Vassan's shoulder. He raised the back of his hand to wipe away his tears a few times.
Inspector is the highest pride of our family. Mom was always happy singing your praises. The most honored son should be the one who could have taken care of her.
Vassan looked at his mother's picture with an empty expression.
The one who should be praised is you, Thong, not me. I'm not good at studying as you, not as strong as you. All I could do was helping Mom work at home. You've got a bright future ahead of you. Being a good leader is the right thing to do.
Vassan looked at his brand new insignia on his shoulder with a tight feeling in his chest. He wanted his mother to see this so bad. She would have hugged him for so long, kissed his cheeks, and told him she would make his favorite northern-style curry as a celebration, just like the time when he graduated from the Royal Police Cadet Academy. He backed away from his mother's picture on the table, kneeled on the wooden floor, pressed his palms together at his chest, and prostrated himself down at his mother's picture. He tried not to cry, but he could feel tears brimming in his eyes. Vassan raised his head and paid respect to his middle older brother's picture next to his mother's. He looked at his deceased family members' pictures and tried to calm down before standing up.
Do you have any plans tonight? Guy has prepared tons of suppers.
Guy was Thongkom's wife. She was Vassan's sister-in-law. The two of them helped take care of his mother until the last moment.
I've no plans for tonight.
Vassan pulled the hems of his uniform shirt out of his pants and pulled down his shirt's zip.
I think I'm gonna work at home. My case files were like a pile of mountain. Speaking of it, do you have so many late-night shifts? You rarely sleep at home recently.
Vassan paused his hand while reaching for a hanger to hang his upper uniform. The answer was he had been sleeping with a man in a hotel recently. But Vasan would never let that answer slip out. His sexual orientation was kept as a secret, even to his family.
I was on duties, or sometimes I was drinking my ass off and passed out at my friend's house. A celebrity who just got back like me was busy with many events. I knew it! The police drink like fish. Take it easy. If you damage your liver, I won't look after you.
Vasan chuckled, looking at his older brothers whining, while walking into the kitchen filled with a rich and pleasant smell.
When I find a rental house I want, I'll move out. Don't miss your alcoholic fatty liver little brother. When you find a house, then hurry and find a wife, Inspector.
Vasan shook his head after hearing a shout from the kitchen. He smiled broadly in a way that he hadn't for several days. His mother in the heaven must be happy to see how her remaining 2 sons were one in heart and mind. Gunn stood watching an empty room before turning to look at the hospital director, who was crossing his arms and smirking next to him.
Professor Samsak, you tried to overly please me lately. I didn't try to please you. I tried to support you.
Samsak raised his hands like he was trying to measure something at the door.
There'll be a sign there stating Dr. Guntebat, Palpative Care Sector.
Gunn laughed.
No need to put my name in there. In case other doctors took over it, you don't have to change the sign.
The tall, middle-aged physician turned to look at Gunn. Dr. Samsak was almost 50 years old, but the time couldn't do anything to him. Despite his few strands of grey hair and the fact that now he had to wear long-sightedness glasses, he was still tall and remained his good personality consistently.
You said you wouldn't be here for long, Gunn.
Gunn shook his head and gave him a faint smile.
Now, I've no plan to move anywhere else, but we cannot foresee the future.
He walked inside the room that used to be the nursing department's conference room.
I think the room is too big. It's just for the nurses and me. Then bring another doctor on board. Other FM doctors ran away to do other jobs. There's only me who still enjoys working in the field.
Gunn turned to look at the middle-aged hospital director who was leaning on the doorframe. His tall body still looked well-built from regular workouts.
Thank you for the room, Professor. Now I've more space for storing my files in separate portions. Tell me if you need more file cabinets. I'll tell my men to arrange them for you.
Samsak looked at his watch.
I need to hurry to the meeting. You can think about the renovation. Send me a line message if you want anything. Thank you.
Gunn showed him a gesture of gratitude. Samsak accepted it before quickly walking away. Gunn's smiling face gradually became impassive. He turned to look at the vast empty room, which was going to be his office. It really was too big for 2 people, 1 doctor and 1 nurse. It would be great if they could divide the room for the patient's family members to come studying home health care. Since Dr. Gunn came to serve the service at this hospital in the province, the palliative care work that had been inconsistent for several years had improved significantly. Gunn had organized an entire new system, whether it was the consulting system for outpatients and inpatients, and the coordination with home visiting network. He also organized the caregiver teaching teams, the special clinic for terminal stage patient care, as well as the data collection system that had been implemented for more than 2 years. The standard indicators that had been set up showed a tendency to improve. That was why medical practitioners and nurses from other hospitals requested for a study visit tour now and then. His contributions must have been doing great, that Dr. Samsak gave him a personal office out of the blue, which was great news for him. "Hello! I dropped by to look at your new office." Dr. Ning's voice rang from the door. Gunn turned to face his colleague and smiled broadly.
Jealous?
What can I do to get another room like this?
You've to ask the director or help me take care of terminally stage patients.
I doubt the terminally stage patient would deliver a baby. I won't be much great help to you. The two let out a laugh at the same time. Ning walked toward Gun with her hands behind her back. She looked at him with her big round eyes. But I can help you with one thing.
What is it?
Gun turned to ask her. If you've any troubles or something worries you, you can always come to me. After she finished the sentence, Ning swiftly turned another way. I'll go to the surgical room now.
What? That's it?
Gun looked at his friend with a confused expression, but when Ning left the room, he let out a long sigh. He looked out of the window. It's not that he didn't know what she was thinking, because he knew it. That was why he played dumb in front of her until these days. After he went through trial and error of love for a long time, now Gun knew well what he wanted. He didn't want to hurt Ning. There were so many good men who were worthier for her than him. Gun returned to the room where the family physician's office took place, which was in social medicine department on a first floor, not far from the emergency department. This afternoon, he had to present about the final stage patients to the caregivers. Gun still needed to add some more information into the presentation. He sat on his chair and sent a heart sticker to Vassan via line message. He just rested for a few seconds when a guest visited him. Dr. Bennett approached him with 2 textbooks in his hands.
I recommend these 2 books. They should be the easiest to learn. And this one written about toxicology as you requested.
Bun towered over Gun's desk and sent him a smile. Gun didn't deny that Bun's smile was one of the most captivating smiles, as well as his well-sculpted body. His height must be the same as Vassan's. He had curly, dark brown hair that made him outstanding. Gun thought that he was seeing another one of the same kind. He was quite positive.
Thank you so much. When should I return them?
Gun took the books and flipped through them.
I'll be working here until June. You can return them any time before that. If you need to use them before then, you can tell me right away.
Bun nodded.
If you'll excuse me, I have an urgent case with a lung cancer patient who died at home.
Gun raised his gaze from the book and turned his head back to look at Bun. His gaze met with the eyes that stared steadily back at his face. This was the gaze of an intelligent man, Gun thought, before replying with his usual calm voice.
The case that the police brought to the emergency room? I heard about it too. The family requested an autopsy. It's a good thing they did.
Bun spoke with a solid tone of voice.
I've got to go.
Gun watched Bun leaving the room. A glass door let out creaking noise when he closed it behind him. He leaned back in his chair, intertwined his hands on his lap, and let himself submerge in his thoughts.
It's a good thing, huh?
Gun murmured quietly with himself. He hated this pink heart so much. He hated it even when he saw who sent it. Vassan put his phone into his pocket without actually opening the message to read it. He wouldn't give the sticker sender too much satisfaction. He lifted his head to look at the witness whom he had called in to discuss further details. The witness who sat across him was Mr. Pyam Yandulang. He was the person who reported that he saw someone break in through the window of the house of the late lung cancer patient, who later had tonic seizures and died at the hospital.
Tell me what you saw,
Vassan asked.
It was dark, officer. I couldn't see things clearly. I just got home then. I spotted some silhouette when I was about to walk inside my house. I thought it's a ghost, so I rushed into my house. But when I got to a second floor and looked outside, I saw that I saw the silhouette trying to force open the house window and climbed in the window on the balcony, officer. I don't understand why it had to waste the time breaking in. Like it didn't know that it's easier to get in from the back of the house. Not a professional thief, then. Can you remember the appearance of the thief?
Piam closed his eyes tightly, trying to think.
I couldn't see his face, it was so dark, but it's a man for sure. He wore a long-sleeved black shirt and black pants. When I saw him, I was scared that he's going to break into my house next, so I quickly called the police. What time was it then? Around 9 p.m.?
20 minutes later, Vassan still hadn't got more useful information aside from the confirmation that there really was an intruder, which might be a man in black. Vassan thanked Piam and insisted that if anyone had additional information, he should be informed immediately. Vassan pulled out his phone again. He just realized that it was noon already and he had nothing in his stomach. I'm starving. Vassan sent a message to Gun. Seconds later, red appeared on the screen. Haven't eaten anything yet? No, work is still not done. Quickly find something to eat, or you'll be too thin. Your hug won't be warm. Then don't. Are we some kind of teenagers? What nonsense are we talking about? Vassan thought. However, there was a smile on the corners of his lips. He waited for Gun's answer for a while, expecting a text or some digital sticker sending back in a few minutes, and he would get to work. However, what he saw next wasn't a sticker or a text, but it was a call from one of his contacts lists. Dr. Benekit, Forensic. Vassan hurriedly accepted the call. His heart was pounding hard. He had contacted Dr. Benekit just one time when there was an unnatural death last week. That was the first time he introduced himself to the forensic pathologist, that he was an inspector who had just moved there.
Hello? Is this Inspector Vassan?
The end of the line spoke.
I'm Benekit, the forensic pathologist. Yes, Doc. The autopsy report of Mr. Chartai isn't finished yet, but I wanted to report the preliminary results to you first.
Vassan knitted his eyebrows.
Go on. From the preliminary inspection, we haven't found the external cause of death. However, I just got a blood test back.
Benekit paused for a few seconds.
Benzodiazepine concentration level in his blood is extremely high with the absence of the medicine in his stomach.
Vassan was speechless, as if he was cursed into stone.
Is it high enough to cause death? It's high. It's enough to cause death. The deceased was injected with the substance through his pulmonary arteries. This type of medicine is a depressant drug. Receiving benzodiazepine overdose leads to respiratory depression until organs are deprived of adequate oxygen supply.
It was like Benekit's voice came from afar. Even though Vassan heard the answer with his ear, his mind refused to acknowledge its existence. What Benekit had told him opened a new door from the previous one, where he once concluded that it was just a way of nature that he was unable to find answer to these strange incidents. The answer from Benekit explained everything, putting together scattered pieces of jigsaw puzzles into one related story. That door is murder.
Inspector?
Benekit called him when Vassan went silent for some time.
Is this the cause of death? This is definitely the cause of death. The patient didn't take the pill himself. There's no medicine in the stomach, sir. Was it possible for someone to inject this substance into the deceased bloodstream?
Vassan heard Benekit take a deep breath.
According to the current autopsy report, the answer is, it's possible. The man who climbed into the deceased house might be the one who did it, but why?
Vassan just realized that he was murmuring to himself, with Dr. Benekit listening on the end of the line.
Thank you. I'll wait for another autopsy report. If there's any further update or if I need your further assistance, I'll tell you.
Vassan hung up the phone, throwing his arm on the desk with so many feelings rushing in like a flash flood. He closed his heavy eyelids, trying to work out his train of thought, to figure out what he should do with this case. According to an unofficial autopsy result he had just heard, he could definitely conclude the cause of death. Vassan decided that after he came back from court tomorrow, he would drop by to take the information to Tay, to analyze the unusual statistical data of terminal patients' death. His phone on the desk vibrated shortly. Gunn had texted him back, but he didn't even want to take a glance at the message.